Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Rupa N. I'm an MBSc scholar in the Division of Pathology from IVRI. I'll Veterinary College Hassan and Student Alumni Association. Now, I welcome Veterinary College Hassan. Shivkumar sir helped us in organizing and by motivating us in all the instances. I heartily welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I welcome Dr. M. Manjunath Sir DR, a guest and a main speaker of this webinar. Just a little announcement before we get started. If you have any questions to ask during the presentation, please type them in the question box in your contacts on your control panel. I'll bring them up during presentation and we will also have time for questions at the end. Now, without any further delay, from Cox to be this. Sir secured his PhD in veterinary surgery radiology research on studies on diagnosis and evaluation in different surgical techniques, the management of pericarditis in bovine from Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University, Gannavaram, Tirupati in 2010. Sir served as a veterinary officer in the Department of Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Science for 2 years, ICC in Veterinary College, Hassan, since 5 years. When it comes to Sir's achievements, Manjunath Sir was endowed with the Young Surgeon Award from ISBS body in 2016. He published around 45 articles in both national and international journals. He is also a life member of different associations like Karnataka Veterinary Council, Karnataka Veterinary Association, Society for Veterinary Surgery, Indian Society for Advancement in Canine Practices, and also a life member of Society of Postgraduate in Veterinary Surgery. I'd like to hear from you, sir.
Thank you, Rupa. Can I start a presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Rupa. Now I am starting presentation. Rupa, presentation is visible?
Yes, sir. Please
Rupa,
make it slideshow, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Videos are playing. Okay, good evening, one and all. Myself, Dr. Manjuna Dia. I'm working as assistant professor in Department of VCC, Veterinary College, Hassan. Today, I'm going to enlighten that's use of ultrasonography in a bovines, that's a cattle and buffalo. As you know, that ultrasonography we are most commonly employing in humans and also dogs and cats. And in a large animal like an sheep, that's a cattle and buffalo, you're using to for reproductive organs like an detection of the CL, length, height, width, and also the follicles. Like mostly is restricted to the that's reproductive organ. Now in this today presentation, I'm enlightening use of an ultrasonography in thoraco-abdominal disorders of an bovines. As you know, ultrasound is non-invasive, safe, economical, reliable tool. Yeah, is less stressful to the animals as compared to the radiography. It can be done in a standing position. Because radiography, most of the time, you need a recumbency, thereby the stress can be avoided, and the motility of an organ can be visualized through ultrasonography, where we can employ a fluoroscopy, but highly dangerous. But ultrasound is better, and this can also be used as an alternative diagnostic tool in diagnosis of most of an disorders of an fourth stomach intestines in case of an bovines. When you coming to the diagnosis of thoraco-abdominal disorder, you can diagnose so many diseases by using an ultrasound, as like in diaphragmatic hernias, reticular adhesions, reticular abscess, peritonitis, pleuritis, pericarditis, the any growth in the heart, hernias, and also to differentiate the cyst, abscess, and hernia, and also tumor. This ultrasound can be effectively employed in these of the cases. Usually, in a large animal, the preferred frequency is 3 to 5 megahertz. That is a curvilinear probe we're going to employ. Usually, deeper organ will be scanned by using the 3 megahertz. That's a transducer. In a superficial organ can be employed the 5 megahertz transducer. That's when you plan to go for a scanning on the right side. Number one is indicating a scanning of a reticulum between 6 to 7 intercostal space, just above the costochondral junction. You can plan. Backside of that, you can scan for an abomasum. Above that, you can go for an omasum. And fourth one is indicating for an liver. And fifth one is the gallbladder. Just above that's a number one. You can scan an heart on right side. This is left side. The 3 is indicating in a heart. The 2 is a reticulum. 1 is a spleen. The 4th one is a kidney. These are the area you can scan in a different organs of that's in a bovines by using an ultrasonography. You observe this video. Just observe the video. This is biphasic contraction of a reticulum. When you place the probe or a transducer at 6th intercostal space, just is all along the elbow on the right side, you're going to get this type of an contraction. This is a contraction of a reticulum. This is normal contraction of a reticulum. That is biphasic contraction. That's 2 times it is going to contract. This is normal contraction of a reticulum. That is at 6th to 7th intercostal space, all along the elbow. You place it just backside of an elbow. If you place, you're going to get this type of a contraction. This is a normal contraction of an reticulum. Again, when you keep, usually when you're willing to go for a scanning of an reticulum, you're supposed to keep a probe minimum 2 minutes. As you know, the reticular contraction is an 3 per 2 minutes. If you keep for 2 minutes, you're not going to get any contraction. You can declare it may be decreased reticular contraction or maybe complete absence of a reticular contraction. Yeah, when you are seeing a reticular contraction, we need to assess how many number of a contraction is getting in a 2 minutes and also intensity of a contraction. That is going to indicate how the reticulum is functioning. If any abnormalities in the reticulum, that intensity will reduce and number of contractions also is going to reduce. It may be due to the plastic impaction or maybe TRP, that is traumatic reticuloperitonitis, or it may be reticular abscess or reticular adhesions, or it may be due to the diaphragmatic hernia, or sometimes it may be pericarditis also is going to decrease the reticular movement. These are the points that should be remembered when you're declaring there is a decreased reticular motility. Here, one more video I'm showing. This I kept it for 2 minutes at 6th to 7th intercostal space. There's a decreased reticular contraction. The finally we diagnose is some of an abnormality, and also this animal is showing in a constant bloat. When you plan to go for exploratory ruminectomy, this surgery was done by an eminent surgeon from Karnataka, Dr. B.V. Shivprakash. We removed around 30 to 40 kilo of plastic from a rumen. Okay, this is plastic impaction or any type of an impaction. It will also going to cause decreased reticular contraction. The same thing is continuation. Is a case of a peritonitis. See an arrow. This is a white line. What you are seeing is a reticulum. This is the liver. In between the liver and reticulum, there is a large quantity of an anechoic area, and also the hyperechoic. The material is floating in an anechoic area. This is suggestive of a peritonitis. If along with the fibrin deposits can be seen between an reticulum and also liver. Then we subjected for an ultrasound guided peritoneocentesis. We got an transudates. We observed the animal. It's the last stage. They presented the case. Then finally we can able to get the large quantity of that's infected material in an peritoneum. And also we got a 2 foreign body in case of an reticulum. Finally, we conclude the case of the traumatic reticuloperitonitis. Yeah, this also condition is going to contribute for decreased reticular contraction. This is one more interesting case that as of now in maybe in your syllabus or in a book, we heard about only the traumatic reticuloperitonitis. It's a very interesting case. Yeah, the traumatic reticulopleuritis. That's the Alika cattle. That cow was presented with a history of chronic anorexia since 2 months. Once you give a steroid, animal will come back to the normal, it start eating. Again after 2 to 3 days, again it will come back to the same position. Again they will give a steroid, it will come back to the, that is an eating position, then again it will go back to the anorexia. In this condition, the case was referred to the college. We gone for an ultrasonography. Yeah, that's total right side of the thoracic cavity is filled with some yellow color fluid along with the fibrin material. You can see in an ultrasound picture. This is on left side. What you are done is scanning. The left side first what you are seeing is an heart. This is the left ventricle, and this is the right ventricle on the bottom. Yeah, heart is totally compressed from right side to left side. You can see that all ventricles are get compressed. When you gone for right side, you can see you are getting an anechoic area with a fibrin material. Heart can be seen at the bottom of the left side. This we thought is on the right side of a thoracic cavities get affected. We getting in a clear-cut yellow color fluid. It's a sort of a pleuritis case. We diagnosed and we told the prognosis to the owner. The chances of recovery is very less. Then we waited. We saw all sort of a treatment, but there is no improvement. Finally, animal is passed away. You can see that's the clear-cut fluid what you are getting. That's yellow color fluid what you are getting. This is a clear-cut case of a pleuritis. Again, further investigation has been done with this case. See, this is a reticulum, arrow showing. This is diaphragm, the white line, and the foreign body has moved from a reticulum to the right side of a thoracic cavity. That resulted in the pleuritis. Yeah, as you know, anatomy of a bovine, that the mediastinum is complete. Only one side is get affected. It may not be communicated to the other side. See, left side of a lung is normal, and the heart is normal. Only the right side is get affected. This is a case of traumatic reticulopleuritis. You may get, earlier you read, only the traumatic reticuloperitonitis. There may be chances of, you may get it, traumatic reticulopleuritis. In this case, the ultrasound is a good tool to assess the prognosis. We can say the prognosis, it is an improvement can be seen, or you can't given any treatment like that. One will going to come back to the conclusion. We can assess the prognosis and also we can plan for the treatment further. That is the case of a reticular abscess. We can see there's an anechoic area, clear-cut boundary and reticular wall. This is that's again animal is passed away. We again went for our confirmation. It's a reticular abscess case. Again, the most of the time, the foreign body in the reticulum, it is going to move out of a reticulum, it will going to comes out of a thoracic cavity or maybe in the abdominal cavity. The most of the time, the swelling will be seen on right side or left side of an axillary region. Yeah, that's a clear-cut case of an abscess. We taken out the foreign body. Please remember, the diagnosis of a metallic foreign body is not possible by ultrasonography. Only you're going to get a reverberation. To diagnose the metallic foreign body in a reticulum, better go for a radiography. Ultrasound will not going to be helpful. But the detection of an abscess, it will be very much easier by using an ultrasound. Where the swelling is there, you're going to keep, you're going to get anechoic with an hyperechoic mixed area. We can say this is an immature abscess or it may be tumor. Depending upon aspiration, we finally can conclude it's an abscess or it may be a tumor. The same case in a buffalo, we taken out on the left side is a traumatic foreign body, it came out of an reticulum. This is a case of an reticular adhesions. This also can be assessed ultrasonographically. Then you can say what best can be done. Along with the peritonitis, we got a reticular adhesion. One more is the most important to diagnose by ultrasound, that is diaphragmatic hernia. What do you mean by that's herniation of any abdominal content through diaphragm into the thoracic cavity? The best method is to diagnose a diaphragmatic hernia is an radiography. But most of the places you don't have a large animal X-ray, you can plan for ultrasonography, can be clear cut, employed, you can diagnose a diaphragmatic hernia. Yeah, keep a probe at 6 to 7 intercostal space, observe the reticulum. If you're not getting a diaphragm at 6 to 7 intercostal space on the right side or left side, you can move forward, you can go up to 5th intercostal space. If you're getting the reticulum at 5th intercostal space along with the heartbeat, see here, this white line is a reticulum. The background, what you're seeing is the beating of an heart. This is a clear-cut case of a diaphragmatic hernia. Yeah, what I told, in 5th intercostal space, if you get a diaphragm in a non-pregnant animal, you can declare this a clear-cut case of an DH. But in case of an advanced pregnant animal, around 8.5 to 9 months pregnant animal, if you get a reticulum at a 5th intercostal space, please don't declare it's a diaphragmatic hernia. You can assess other things, then you can declare, because in an advanced pregnant animal, the reticulum can move up to 5th intercostal space, don't declare it. In case of a non-pregnant animal, if you're getting a reticulum at 5th intercostal space, clear cut, you can say is a case of DH. Then simultaneous, you can go for an auscultation, you can find out. The same thing, you can see this case, we gone for a ruminotomy, then we subjected for a laparotomy. Then this is an hernial ring, what you're seeing here. This is a hernial ring repair. Now one more case, you can see here, the heart has been compressed here. You can see the clear-cut anechoic area, there's some beating is the left ventricle. That small one is in the right ventricle. We are scanning on the left side. And that's in a very hyperechoic white line, what you're seeing at the bottom. This is an reticulum. Okay, on the left side. Right side you can see, only reticular line can be seen. That's back side of a reticulum, we're getting a contraction of a heart. Thereby, you can clear cut, we can say this is a case of a diaphragmatic hernia. Further, this is the case was presented very late. The final animal is passed away. We went for post-mortem to confirm our diagnosis. This is a diaphragm. This is an herniated portion of a reticulum. And this is a lung. And little bit adhesion can be seen between the reticulum and diaphragm. Now, finally, we try to pull out of a reticulum from a diaphragm. This is a ring, what you are seeing. This one more case in a buffalo E-form, the diaphragmatic hernia. Let's see, that's in a heart. The below the heart, you are getting a reticulum, that's an anechoic area with a contraction. This case, we subjected for ruminotomy. The frothy blood you can see here. This, if you're getting a frothy blood, first thing you need to suspect, it may be a chance of a diaphragmatic hernia. Then finally, this case has been operated without IPPV and diazepam and ketamine intravenous anesthesia. We repaired hernial ring. This is the team what we operated on this particular reform. This is the first day of an operation. It's the 10th day of an operation. The successful recovery has been seen. Yeah, we employed an ultrasonography to diagnose an diaphragmatic hernia. Wherever the chances is there, please try to use an ultrasound for the forced stomach disorders in case of large animals. There's one more burning topic in a field, in maybe the crossbreed animal or maybe local kata, is a pericarditis. The most of the time, what you say, once you get a pericarditis, is the end of an animal. But at this junction, I will need to say, if pericarditis is there, we can postpone the life of an animal. The different techniques are there. You can employ at the field level itself. You can save the life of an animal. Usually, there's the 4 types of an pericarditis. One is that's a serous form, suppurative form, fibrinous form, and constrictive form of a pericarditis. Yeah, I'm going to show you 2 videos. See, this is a fibrinous form of a pericarditis. You can see the fibrin material between a pericardium and also epicardium. There's a tight adhesion can be seen. This is one is suppurative form of a pericarditis. Yeah, you can see on the left side of a ventricle, left ventricle, right ventricle. This is an epicardium. This is an pericardium. This between that, you're getting in a clear-cut fluid, that's an hyperechoic fluid, is suggestive of a pericarditis. This is a suppurative form. This is a fibrinous form of a pericarditis. Earlier days, when you're willing to open the thoracic, before that, I'm going to show. When you get a pericarditis, you can plan for ultrasound-guided pericardiocentesis. Yeah, ultrasound guided, we can take an ultrasound, you can keep it. Then by use of an ultrasound, you can guide the needle, we can get the fluid. This fluid can be subjected for an ABST report or cytology or maybe organism isolation like that. You can select a suitable antibody, you can select, you can assess which are the organism will be predominant in this particular pericardial fluid. You can assess the prognosis depending upon that. You can employ ultrasound readily for pericardiocentesis. Yeah, first, when in the beginning of my career, we diagnosed a pericarditis. We thought we're supposed to go for a thoracotomy. We performed the thoracotomy, that is a 5th rib resection under general anesthesia with IPPV, that is intermittent positive pressure ventilation. We drained around 10 liters of a pericardial fluid. Okay, then we sutured everything. The meanwhile, this animal was pregnant when doing an operation. That's given a birth to that's a female calf. After 1 month after surgery, animal can able to survive for 6 months only. We couldn't able to save more than 6 months in this case. This first, what you have done? You have done a pericardiotomy by 5th rib resection under general anesthesia. But in some of the places, we don't have a general anesthesia. That's why we improved the technique. We started doing pericardiotomy under local anesthesia in standing position. This is somewhat better. We're getting a very good result. See, the pericardial fluid is coming out. This is an ultrasound is showing that's an anechoic area with hyperechoic granules, suggestive of a pericarditis. This is a post-operative. Then we have done a ruminotomy also to check for any foreign body. This is 5th rib resection under local analgesia in a standing position. Again, the further modification of a technique has been done to improve our technique. We started doing, instead of going for a 5th rib resection, we plan to use some of a human catheter, that is 28 Fg, the trocar catheter. The cost is around 900 to 1000 rupees. You may get it around 600 rupees. The cost 600 to 800 rupees. Yeah, this is a clear-cut case of a pericarditis. We can see that's a pericardial fluid over here. Yeah, first we identified the fifth intercostal space. Then we gone for a pericardiocentesis. Then we identify the exact site where we can go for an pericardiostomy. We made a nick incision. Then we passed that is trocar catheter into the pericardium. You can see we're getting a fluid over there. See here, the fluid is coming like an tap water. You can check it out. The fluid is coming like an tap water. It's like looking like a blood. Should not be panic. You must be sure about your technique. Looking like a blood is not a blood, it's a pericardial fluid. We fixed a catheter is a Chinese finger trap suture. This is post-operative. Post-operative animal that started taking in a feed and water. That's the one more thing I need to emphasize here. Most of the time in your teaching field, or maybe when you are teaching in the classroom, will say, what is the site of pericardiocentesis? They say left side at fifth intercostal space. But it's not true always. The pericardiocentesis can be done based on which side is affected. You can see clear-cut picture here. Then we are scanning on the left side. Left side is the pericardium is normal. You can see the left ventricle. We can see an right ventricle. This right side is get affected here. Only the right side pericarditis is there, is not on left side. Here when you're going for right side, we can get clear-cut anechoic area. It's a case of a right side pericarditis. It's a rare case, I can say. But when you're planning to go for another pericardiocentesis, better to identify which side is affected. Depending upon that, we need to go for another pericardiocentesis. Yeah, when you say, sir, we don't have ultrasound, what has to be done in a field level? First, if any pericarditis case is there, we'll go into clinical signs like jugular pulsation, brisket edema, submandibular edema, or maybe sometimes you may get a bloat, sometimes may not get a bloat. Animal is reluctant to move downward. In this condition, first, you take a stethoscope, go for auscultation. The most often pericarditis cases is a tachycardia, that is increased heart rate, is a predominant clinical signs. If heart rate nearly 80 or it's more than 80, it's nearly 80 or more than 80, sometimes you may get a 90 or 120. In this case, it may be a case of a pericarditis. Along with a heartbeat, please listen for a muffled heart sound, or maybe that's water is flowing through the pipe, like that sound you're going to get it. In this case, a clear cut say this is a case of a pericarditis. Then what has to be done? If we auscultate both left side and also right side, both side you auscultate. After auscultation, you can analyze which side you're getting a muffled heart sound is more. In that particular site, if it is a left side, we can take a drip set needle, that is on a 22 gauge, green or maybe 21 or maybe like that fine needle you can take it. You can pass it that particular site where you're getting a muffled heart sound. If you get a pericardial fluid, that is a site you can apply for pericardiostomy. When you're planning to go for a right side pericardiocentesis, in that stage, you can take a bigger needle. That's the length of a needle should be bigger. You can plan to go for a spinal needle. You can pass it out. If you get a clear-cut fluid or any sort of a fluid, you can suspect this is a case of a pericarditis. That's improvisation of one more technique. That's what you say, that's a 28 FC trocar catheter what you used earlier. But in this case, that 8,800 rupees is too costly. You plan to use a Foley's catheter. Yeah, When you plan to use a Foley's catheter, we don't have a stillet. First time you use an orthopedic Koya, we straighten the orthopedic Koya, we take an as the guide or maybe stillet for an Foley's catheter. This is the right side. We operate it because it's affected on only the right side. We taken out the fluid is around 2 to 3 liters of an fluid we taken out from a pericardial cavity. This is a post-operative photograph. Yeah, this animal still now surviving. We are done around, I think, 5 years back. We operated this case. Animal has given a 2 female calf, and still animal is producing. Animal is working well. That's doing well. The what you operated. That means what I am saying. The pericarditis is not an end. We're supposed to identify which type of a pericarditis. What can be done for that? That improvisation of the same technique now is most of a veterinarian in Karnataka they're practicing. They're using that is the Foley's catheter with AA gun stillet. That means the backside of a AA gun, what is there? That stillet can be applied to provide a strength to the Foley's catheter. Yeah. Usually we can identify an ultrasound. Otherwise you can go for a pericardiostomy, ultrasound aided or a guided pericardiostomy. If you ask, sir, we are in a field, what has to be done? First, I told you pericardiocentesis. We need to identify the site of where you are getting the fluid flushing sound.